Hello and welcome everybody to the short talk on my paper Formalising German Legal Opinions as Planning. In this paper I've considered a possible application of hierarchical planning, namely as a tool to formalize legal thought and legal argumentation in a specific way. Let's consider an example of what we actually want to model. Consider a case where we have two people, blue and green. Blue goes to green, buys a box of tiles from him. Green tells him, yes, those are white tiles. Blue pays for the tiles. Now he gets home and opens the box and sees those tiles are actually black. He goes back to Green and tells him, well, you sold me white tiles, but I got black ones. And Green says, well, so you didn't look into the box, I don't care. In these kind of situations, we want to derive what the legal consequences of this kind of situation is. So who has an obligation to do what in this case, and who can demand what from whom. In this case, the actual answer would be, among others, that G has to provide B with new tiles. To derive these consequences, the German legal science uses so-called opinions. An opinion is a structured way to check whether a given set of facts entails a specific legal consequence. In its structure, it is a four-step process. It always starts with a so-called premise that states the objective that we want to check. I mean, the claim that we want to check. In this case, G may have to provide new tiles to B. Then it is immediately followed by a definition which states the conditions under which the premise is actually true. So in this case, if B has a right to supplementary performance. And then we have to check the elements of the definition. In this case, we can't do this immediately, but we have to enter in another opinion, a sub-opinion stating B may have the right to supplementary performance, premise, definition. If B and G have a sales contract, the object has a defect, the risk has passed, and there is no preclusion. We again have to enter into sub-opinions, 4 in this case. So we start a sub-opinion, and then at the end of the sub-opinion, we arrive at a result. In this case, B and G have a valid sales contract. Start with the next sub-opinion. In this case, J object may have a defect. State the definition. It has a defect if it has not the agreed upon quality. Now, this is the point where the third step in writing an opinion comes into play, namely subsumption, which is the process of determining, given the facts of the case, whether a specific definition actually holds. In this case, B and G have agreed on white tiles, but they are black, so the definition is actually true in this case. This is something that I didn't consider in the paper, because this is more of a natural language processing or machine learning task. We again arrive at a result and then get a cascading set of results eventually telling us that G has to provide new tiles to B. So why do we actually look at opinions? The point is that opinions are a very structured way of thinking about legal problems, and they have a very fixed structure. They're actually books that you can buy telling you, well, if you want to check a specific condition, like B may have the right to supplementary performance, how the opinion, the structure of the opinion below that may look like, and at what things you may have to look into. And what I wanted to do was to formalize this in an HPlan planning domain. And interestingly, HPlan planning actually fits very well to this. The claims or premises in opinions very well correspond to abstract tasks. Things like X may have to provide new task Y is an abstract task, must provide X, Y new tile. Subsumptions correspond to primitive actions. X might be white, corresponds to primitive action, check property X, white color. The facts of the case are just the state variables and the initial state. Schemata from which we construct the opinions are a bit more complicated, but they essentially correspond to decomposition methods. And if you're interested in it, just come to the poster, we can talk about how this actually works. So the question now is, why do we actually want to formalize opinions in terms of HPlan planning problems? Opinions are the way that law students are actually trained in Germany. Pretty much every university exam and the state bar exam ask you to write opinions on the specifics of a case. So having a formal model of these opinions is actually a good starting point for developing automatic AI-based tools for teaching students elements of the law. It is also a good starting point for more complex questions, things like determining the relevance of specific questions within an opinion, some things you want to elaborate, some things you don't. It is also a good formal tool if you want to do things like verification of opinions, so you're looking at what the student wrote and judging whether it's right or wrong. And lastly, it also provides the basis for being able to putting students to things that they missed out. If you want to know more, come to the poster.